Joe, Governor Kemp just talked about the state's response. It was an extensive press conference there with a lot of information, Joe.
It was, Cheryl, quite possibly, or it was his longest press conference so far on COVID-19. He continued to say he does not want the public to panic about the coronavirus, but he did definitely change his tone today when talking about older people in our communities and people with special needs and how we are taking care of those people moving forward. He's asking families and neighbors with anyone 60 years of age and older or with underlying conditions to have a conversation with those people. Make sure that there is a plan in place for those people to have a 2-week supply of food, prescriptions, and other necessities.
We must take extra care around elderly individuals, people with ongoing health issues, and those who have a suppressed immune system. We need to help them dramatically limit their exposure to the public for the foreseeable future.
And Governor Brian Kemp says that includes skipping, for high-risk people, them skipping events, large-scale events where there's a lot of traffic, including church services. He mentioned 2 of the confirmed COVID-19 cases coming out of Bartow County. The people from those cases attended the same Bartow County church. In a letter sent to members today, Church at Liberty Square said 2 people attended Sunday services the past 2 weeks. They're now asking their members to monitor for symptoms. Kemp also made a call to action today for community leaders, education leaders, and child care providers. He did not mandate closures, but says if school leaders and child care providers believe it's necessary, he wants them to close for 2 weeks, starting as early as tomorrow. And if possible, he wants local governments to direct non-essential employees to stay home for 2 weeks. The governor also expanded his coronavirus task force. He put several people in charge of a variety of committees today for supplies, physician care, caring for the homeless, and also the economic impact. Coming up at 6, we'll show you how the state is now reporting more information about the coronavirus cases so